Hi, my name's Ben Jackson. I'm a GP in Doncaster, been there for 18 years, and the rest of the week I work at the medical school, Sheffield Medical School, running all the general practice teaching for the undergraduate medical students. So, and when I was about 30, I'd qualified as a doctor, and we got married. I got married to my wife, and when we were engaged, my wife's from Ireland, and we'd talked about where we were going to live, and we decided that we would move to Ireland, and I would try and live in Ireland. And so we did some travelling. We had some great travelling all over the world, and we had a great time. And we got back, and we were living in a flat in London, and then I was looking for jobs, and it's a great job that came up, which I didn't get, and then another job came up, and we moved over to Ireland as a stepping stone to Waterford, and it was beautiful. It was a really gorgeous part of the world. We lived about 30 minutes drive from a surf beach, lessons. It's called the Garden of Ireland because it's always sunny, and it's getting back to loads of water stuff, and it was just a really lovely place. And just as we were moving over there, we found out my wife was pregnant, so that was great news too. And we got over there, and I seemed to have got the job in Ireland that we wanted. My wife had got a job, and the hospital, which was just walking distance from the house really, and it was all good. It all should have been good anyway. And something started to happen, and it was really strange because I was living in this lovely part of the world, settling down for the first time, baby on the way. We bought a house because we really wanted to settle down, and everything should have been perfect, but somehow it wasn't, and it all started to unravel. And it was, I think what first of all happened was that the work wasn't exactly what I thought it was going to be, and so because I didn't have much of a social life and I was doing a lot of things on my own, work was very important, and my wife was working as well, and I wasn't really enjoying my job. I was a new person there, and they were slightly bullying me, I think, at the time. They were sort of not including me sometimes in social events, and I'd never experienced that really, and weirdly sometimes, because I was English and everybody else was Irish, they were sort of making comments about that as well, which were fine at first, but it just became a bit tiresome, and I started to really get unhappy and a bit anxious about going into work. And then at home, I started to get more quiet. I'm generally quite an outgoing person, but I got to get more quiet, not really irritable, because, but just generally quiet, and didn't want to do stuff. I stopped any of the water sports I was doing, and I kind of tried to make it right. I joined I was keen outdoors, but I joined a walking club and went walking, but didn't feel confident to talk to them, and it kind of crept on slowly. And the last thing you'd ever think about me was that I wasn't confident to talk to a group of strangers, but it didn't feel that I really fitted in, and it was really odd. And that all got worse and worse. And I was talking to my wife, and she was supporting me. And I'm a GP, so I know about mental health. And I was trying to do the right things, get out, talk to people. Didn't have a lot of friends, and that was a big part of it. And then it just started to go into myself more and more. And my wife bought me a cat, see if I could try and get me out of things, and eventually, it got to one really awful weekend. I wasn't sleeping well, and I couldn't go into work. It was awful, and couldn't go in, and had to phone in, make excuse about why I couldn't go into work. And instead I found a GP. Well, I was sort of half registered with a GP, but it's different in Ireland. And went to see somebody, and got, I started on some fluoxetine actually. I mean, I think partly because I was 30, I suppose, or 31, maybe, I don't remember, but I think partly because I know about, I'm supposed to know about mental health. I had tried loads of the things that you might suggest to somebody, but I started on some treatment and I took it probably not quite long enough. I took it for 9 months maybe, and maybe actually more like 6 months. And we had to change a lot of things. So I ended up having to leave. I left the job because I realised that was a big part of it. But then we ended up having to sell a house we just bought, and it changed our whole lives very much. Joe, I mean, in the middle of all of this, I had my first son, and that was great. And there were moments when it was just great, and you were just loving all of that. But almost when it wasn't great, it was rubbish. It was like, so it had to be. So having your first son, I loved it. We'd take them on walks down the beach. I loved all that. But there was like a little fire that had gone off inside. It was like someone had turned out the sort of the light inside, and there wasn't something in the background. It was me that was bubbling away. Anyway, we moved back to England, and it was a long time ago now. Still affects. I mean, it's still sometimes you still remember echoes of what that was like. And like I was saying beforehand, I don't think if you've been depressed, I don't think it's like anything in life. You'll never be the same person afterwards, because you'll always have a memory of what that was like. And I think sometimes when I've been really down afterwards, or not really down, because I've not been quite so bad, but when I've felt those feelings afterwards, I've known what they are. And I thought, yeah, this is something that happened to you once, so you just be careful, and checked myself a bit. Because it's a sort of, I mean, I think mental health is different. The important thing is it's different for every single person. But for me, it was like someone had turned off the pilot light, and just my whole mood was just dropped, and that meant I didn't want to do stuff. Cried sometimes, not cried at the funny film, like that sad films, but just felt really sad. Very strange, and like I said, I think there were some big things that had happened, and those sorts of things happen to lots of people. They have their first child, or even another child. I mean, they have children, and they move house, they lose jobs, they change jobs. Those are all massive stressful events, and of course, it's good to have support around you. And I wonder if it was because I didn't have my friends. Because I think if I'd have had my friends, I'd have been going out to the pub and just talking it through a bit more. But I think I was in myself, so I wasn't talking enough about people. Could talk to my wife, but felt, well, I mean, to be honest, we'd just settled down, we'd just bought a house, she was pregnant. Felt like this massive sort of, probably put like a pressure on myself as a bloke to just get it right for her when it wasn't right for me, and it was going wrong. I didn't want to share as much with her probably as I should have done. And because I didn't have those friends to go and say, that you have, I think that was a big thing actually. Thinking about, I hadn't thought about that until I've just talked about it now. I left the job and we moved and everything, and it was a really difficult 2 years resettling again with a tiny baby. It was really particularly difficult for my wife. And I think that then, so it took some time for me to feel happy with myself again. I threw myself into work, and I've done some. I'm really, really proud of all the stuff I've done since then. But really, I think that it really takes time, because you feel a bit guilty then. You start to feel guilty about being ill, where you wouldn't feel guilty if you broke your leg, but you start to think it's your fault, which is, I don't know why. And so I think the thing that you realise is that if you do get depressed, you don't get better quickly. And that's what I think I now in my job try and work through with people that are depressed. Try and work through with them that or have anxiety problems. That part of it is who they are, because part of it is family history and stuff, but part of it is just what's happened to them in their lives. And I'm not. I mean, there's millions of people that have had greater stresses in their life than me. But if they have got that in situation, to try and help them not to expect that they'll be better in 3 months or better in 6 months, and to try and give them permission to take time to get better, and not feel bad, not blame themselves for what's happened to them. I think that's and let themselves get better in time, and see that there's a perfectly happy future ahead of them, but it's just going to take a bit of time. That's the other thing.